Grandma Storytime. Put on your glasses, Grandma. Get your story back, Grandma. Here it is. Oops. Here it is with purple circles, golden elephants, blue circles, golden elephants, and red circles. Remember, we have to be quiet and then Peter will come out. Are you nice and quiet? What are you doing in there? Huh? He's happy. Happy to be out? Yes, it's National Science Week still. Oh, you like that? Did you get another book for us to read today? Is it about science? Of course it is. Another book. What's the book you've got today? Oh, stuck in the bag. There it is. Oh, it's called The Snail and the Whale. Should we? Oh, who's it by? Julia Donaldson and Axel Scheffler. Okay. Time for you to go back and have a little sleep while I read the story. Bye-bye. Bye-bye, Peter. Let's begin. The Snail and the Whale. I can see a whale looking at the shore. There's a little crab there, some fish jumping, and look, there's a snail on the tail, and two birds, a macaw and a toucan. Inside, the snail and the whale. Oh, now I can see a lighthouse. Here's a big scene down at the seaside. Have a look, what can you see? Some ships out to sea, a fishing boat coming in, a lighthouse, some very big boats that are docked, and I can see some rubbish and some shells and some seagulls and a snail with big white eyes looking out to sea. Let's begin. This is a tale of a tiny snail and a great big grey-blue humpback whale. This is a rock as black as soot. And this is a snail with an itchy foot. The sea snail slithered all over the rock and gazed at the sea and the ships in the dock. And as she gazed, she sniffed and sighed. The sea is deep and the world is wide. How I long to sail, said the tiny snail. Can a snail go sailing? Let's find out. These are the other snails in the flock who all stuck tight to the smooth black rock. And they said to the snail with the itchy foot, "Be quiet, don't wriggle, sit still, stay put." But the tiny sea snail sighed and sniffed, and then he cried, "I've got it, I'll hitch a lift." And this is the trail of the tiny snail, and the silvery trail that looped and curled and said, he's drawn a sign, "Lift wanted around the world." Who could give him a lift around the world? Will they take him on a boat? This is the whale who came one night when the tide was high and the stars were bright. A humpback whale, immensely long, who sang to the snail a wonderful song of shimmering ice and coral caves and shooting stars and enormous waves. And this is the tale of the humpback whale. He held it out of the starlit sea and said to the snail, "Come, sail with me." So you might put out a hand to say, "Come with me," and the whale's putting out his tail. And this is the sea so wild and free that carried the whale and the snail on his tail to towering icebergs and far-off lands. How exciting for the snail. Look at the things he can see. Icebergs, penguins, some on the ice and some diving into the sea, and some seals. And the whale took him where he could see fiery mountains and golden sands. Look, the whale brought him in. He can see a turtle on the beach and a monkey. And a volcano, yes. One spouting lava and the other smoking. Yes, and there's some dolphins too. These are the waves that arched and crashed and foamed and frolicked and sprayed and splashed the tiny snail on the tail of the whale. Do you think a snail would like to be splashed with seawater? These are the caves beneath the waves, where stripy fish and leathery fins and sharks with hideous toothy grins swam round the whale and the snail on his tail. I can see all sorts of fish and anemone and lobsters and octopus. This is the sky so vast and high, sometimes sunny and warm and blue, sometimes filled with a thunderstorm with zigzag lightning and flashing and frightening the tiny snail on the tail of a whale. Hang on, it's scary out there. And she gazed at the sky and the sea and the land, and the waves and the caves and the golden sand. She gazed and gazed, amazed by it all. And she said to the whale, "I feel so small." A snail is small. A whale is large, and the whole world around is even larger. But then came the day. The whale lost his way. There are speedboats running a race and zigging and zooming all over the place, upsetting the whale with their ear-splitting roar, making him swim too close to the shore. What will happen if he goes too close to the shore? This is the tide slipping away. He needs to turn round and get off the sand. And this is the whale lying beached in a bay. "Quick, off the sand, back to sea," cried the snail.
"I can't move on land. I'm too big,"
moaned the whale. The snail felt helpless and terribly small. And then, "I've got it," she cried, and she started to crawl. "I must not fail," said the tiny snail. What is she going to do? What can a snail do to help a whale? This is the bell on the school in the bay, ringing the children come in from their play. This is the teacher holding her chalk, telling the class, "Sit straight, don't talk." And this is the board, as black as soot. And this is the snail with the itchy foot. "A snail! A snail!" The teacher turns pale. Look, say the children, "it's leaving a trail." And this is the trail of the tiny snail, a silvery trail saying, "Save the whale." That is a clever snail, and the children are reading it. What will they do? These are all the children running from school. One of them is carrying the snail so he doesn't have to crawl back again. Fetching the firemen, and they're digging a pool. squirting and spraying to keep the whale cool. And this is the tide coming back into the bay. And these are the villagers shouting, "Hooray!" as the whale and the snail travel safely away. Look, someone's there with a movie camera. They're taking pictures. The whale's giving a spout, thank you. And the whale's giving a smile, thank you. And the children and the people are waving goodbye. Back to the dock and to the flock on the rock, who said, "How time's flown, and haven't you grown?" And the whale and the snail told their wonderful tale of shimmering ice and coral caves and shooting stars and enormous waves, of how the snail, so small and frail, with her looping, curling, silvery trail, saved the life of a humpback whale. And then the humpback whale hurled out his tail, and on crawled snail after snail after snail. And they sang to the sea as they all set sail on the tail of a grey-blue humpback whale. And that's the end of the story. We do live in a big world, don't we? A world on land and an underwater world out to sea. I was very concerned about the humpback whale. Do you remember the picture? When it got disorientated and ended up beached. Beached means on the beach instead of in the water. And the children were all in school and they didn't know. Nobody knew. But the snail made his way all the way to the classroom to give them a message, come and help. And then there's the picture of everyone coming to help. Keep the whale moist with lots of water, and then when the tide comes in, we'll float the whale out. Sometimes that happens. You heard the whale singing its song. Whales listen to other whales and they know not to go near the rocks. But sometimes, when there's so many ships out to sea and so many boats with all their motors, it confuses the whales. We need to do our best to protect the whales. They don't hurt us. We need to look after them. I think you can go and investigate that too. Be your little scientist. Remember, it's National Science Week. That's all for today. Bye-bye.